Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second session of Ask Me Anything, or as we like to call it, Wednesdays with Windrose now. Thank you so much for the overwhelming response for the first video. Is really happy to see like a good quality of questions, a good viewership for the same. I hope we were able to sort of deliver enough value out there. Based on the feedback that we received, we've decided to make a slight modification. We've decided to reduce the size of the video as well as we've decided to take up 5 questions per video instead of taking 10. Uh, we really wanted to deliver a lot more queries, but we realized that a long format video becomes more cumbersome. So yeah, without further ado, let me just dive deep into our second AMA. So, first question here is: do VCs tend to have a FOMO, a fear of missing out, leading to sudden peaks in particular sector investments, e-commerce, then fintech, then gaming and edtech, or is it just a genuine spike or catalytic acting in favor of the sector? Uh, uh, it actually depends. So, in an early stage, one what needs to realize is VCs are there for the longer term, right? So, let's say, for example, currently mobile gaming or edge tech is sort of the flavor of the day going on. But as an early stage investor, I know that my exit will actually not come in the next year or 2 years. It's probably going to come 3 years, or actually more likely beyond 5 years from now. So it's really not worth following the flavor of the day of sorts, right? Because something might be good today, but from an exit perspective, it really does not make sense. Having said that, yes, you do see a lot of deals happening. Now, one what needs to realize is a lot of late stage deals follow that, right? Because like, just say a pre-IPO deals or deals which wherein like an investor is probably anticipating an exit in the next year or two, right? So there suddenly what happens is because of the more imminent need of the product or service being offered, VCs expect that a good premium can be generated at the time of exit. So yeah, largely there is some sort of FOMO at a late stage transaction, but at an early stage transaction, at least I personally would want to stay out of getting involved. It does work out well for some sectors at times, does not. A lot of early stage investors, or rather angel investors, uh, to sort of get involved in this whole hoo-ha of one sector being more popular for the current day, but usually again, this is a very personal belief that I have, that these investors are not taking either the right decision or may regret their decision, because today something might be in favor, but at the time of exit, what is in favor is more important, right? It's great time to exit in a tech company or a gaming startup if you have been invested in, uh, but as an early stage investor, participating now may not really make sense. You've already missed that train there. Moving to question number two, how are VCs valuing the companies at the time of ongoing pandemic? And how are VCs changing their trajectory of investment during this time? This is a good question. So valuation basically have rationalized a little to a certain extent, in the sense people are now factoring in pandemic and then making projections about the industry, the sector, what are the adjacent changes that are happening, or there are a lot of fast-paced changes happening in adjacent sector. Like there are a lot of businesses adopting technology faster than ever before, especially in India. And how is that impacting your value proposition as a B2B company? So all those things one now needs to factor in, and then sort of revalue the company. Typically, whatever XYZ multiple or method that is being used would probably be toned down a little, also because the growth won't appear as aggressive. As far as VC's trajectory of investment is concerned, again, it changes from VC to VC. So, okay, I'll broadly again put sort of classify them into two. So there are VCs who are sitting on a lot of cash, in the sense they have raised a lot of money from their investors and are then now willing to invest. Those guys are having a field day, right? Suddenly you'll see some of the funds have actually increased the rate at which they transact. Whereas at the same time, there are other VCs who have a lot of investment but are not sitting on cash. Now, one needs to realize that in a VC's business model, the money is raised, but the cash comes in tranches or stages, right? So for VCs who are sitting on cash, or as it is called, the dry powder in our industry, they are actually they have become more aggressive, whereas the ones who are not sitting on a lot of cash are taking a more cautious approach. Specifically, we at Windrose had actually stopped investing for 2 whole quarters because we wanted to have more certainty around how things are evolving, Is there any adverse regulations coming into picture which are there to stay? Like a lot of changes were anticipated and expected, like labor laws changing, stuff like that. So we wanted things to stabilize a little, and now in October, finally we've resumed investments though. Yeah. Coming to question 3, any tips for startup for trying to raise funds during this time? Uh, Okay, so nothing new here. Raising funds is a difficult activity. It's just going to be a slightly bit more difficult. So keep at it, be more resilient. Don't get disheartened. Keep trying. As in, I couldn't say that. Probably you required to meet 20 investors to close in with the one. So to say, in the current time, you probably might have to meet 50% more, or let's say 30 investors to close one transaction, so to say. So, but keep at it. It's relatively more difficult, but it's not impossible to do so. And especially do go back, reevaluate your value proposition. Is it still relevant? Is it still true? We see a lot of companies who have created some COVID related products or services, but they are not in the core DNA of the company, right? Like we saw a lot of computer vision startup jumping into implementation of social distancing. But if the startup originally was planned to be for something completely different, like let's say for surveillance or for uh, quality inspection and stuff like that. So this new offshoot application is really not aligned with the core value proposition. So when you go out there to raise funding by justifying that, oh, you are doing this, then your business, only this business vertical would get valued, right? And then suddenly you'll feel like, oh, but I have this other business also. Why am I not getting value for that? But that is not the business that you are into right now. So one needs to be very sure of sticking true to their core value proposition and whether that still holds relevance. Uh, the next question, our penultimate one, is what are some pitching tricks for the win? Oh, okay, I'm going to let out a secret over here, right? So this is one thing we advise our portfolio companies. Probably the best piece of advice you'll have in this video. This is something I always tell my founders. If you want money, ask for advice. If you want advice, ask for money. A lot of times when founders go out there to raise money, they only end up with an advice. And you'll be surprised the moment you say that, I don't require money, I'm looking for advice, and you get people excited about your company, the chances of you actually having received an investment is actually goes up. So it's a bit of a secret I'm letting out over here. Great. Last question for today. What is the level of involvement usually for a VC investing in a startup? Again, a good question. So there are two factors to consider over here. First is at what stage. So what stage of a VC you are looking at. So an early stage VC might not have as much involvement as a late stage VC would be. It's quite understandable because a late stage VC has written a much larger check. So let's say somebody writing $1 million check versus somebody writing a $50 million check in your company would of course have a different level of involvement. The later one would have enough bandwidth to actually have dedicated resources in-house to actually support your companies. And it's quite common also for large funds to have dedicated analysts for each portfolio company that they have. Also because given that they are a large fund, the portfolio size is relatively small. When you come at early stage VCs, usually you will see that the portfolio size keeps growing and it then becomes difficult for them to actually personally be involved in a lot of companies. So stage of VC is one thing that determines, but also an investing style. Some VCs really love to be hands-on, whereas for others, that's not the case. And which again is also subject to the stage at which they are coming in. To give you an example, what we follow at Windrose is that we will call our founders once a month to take an update and everything, but our founders can call us 10 times a day. So we have some sort of an open door policy, so you can reach out to us anytime you want, any sort of help that you want. But we will still reach out to you at least once a month to check up on what's happening, whether things are on track, whether you need any help. We do it in a format of a standard MIS process wherein we do capture quantitative as well as qualitative data. And we would typically like to follow that up with a call and just ask or get more clarity on things. So yeah, great. I hope you enjoy this new, slightly shorter format of Wednesdays with Windrose. Would love to hear back more from you so that we can bring more value to the table for y'all. In case you guys are watching this on YouTube, my personal LinkedIn, a link to my personal LinkedIn profile as well as a company profile is down below in the description. Feel free to connect to us, follow us, send us questions either in the comments below or through LinkedIn messages or direct messages to myself as well. I accept direct messages from anyone within my LinkedIn network. And if you're watching this on LinkedIn, you already know where to find us. So, lovely. Hope you guys have a nice day. Take care.